The crystal chandelier at La Maison cast elegant shadows across the white tablecloth as I carefully positioned my homemade chocolate truffles next to the imported cheese platter. The annual Parker family dinner was always an exercise in subtle humiliation, but this year felt different. Maybe because I knew something they didn't. "Oh, Sophia's brought her little treats again," my sister Victoria announced, her designer bracelet catching the light as she gestured dismissively. "How quaint." I smoothed down my simple black dress Chanel, though they'd never recognize it, and took my assigned seat at the far end of the table. The one furthest from my father, naturally. The family disappointment doesn't get prime seating. "Still running that tiny bakery in the old district?" my brother-in-law James asked, not bothering to hide his smirk. "What do you call it again?" "Sweet something." "Sweet Harbor Bakery," I replied quietly, watching him wash down one of my truffles with a sip of $100 wine. He had no idea those chocolates were made with rare Ecuadorian cacao that cost more per pound than his Italian suit. Victoria leaned forward, her perfect features arranged in what she probably thought was sisterly concern. "Darling, it's been 5 years. Don't you think it's time to do something more substantial? The hotel group is always looking for food service managers." The hotel group, Grand Meridian Hotels, where Victoria was Senior VP of Operations. The same hotel group that would learn tomorrow morning that their mysterious new owner was their VP's little sister who just baked cupcakes. "I'm happy with my bakery," I said, taking a small sip of wine. The same wine I had cases of in my cellar, though mine was a better vintage. "Happy?" my father finally spoke, his voice carrying that familiar disappointment. "Sophia, you have an MBA from Cornell. You could have joined the family business, but instead you waste your time playing with flour and sugar in that tiny shop." If only they knew that my tiny shop was just the public face of SP Hospitality Group, one of the largest privately held hospitality investment companies in the country. That while they thought I was struggling to make rent, I was orchestrating the quiet acquisition of Grand Meridian Hotels through a complex web of shell companies and private equity firms. "The shop does well enough," I murmured, watching my mother flinch at the word shop. Heaven forbid anyone remember that her daughter was a mere shopkeeper. "Well enough." Victoria laughed, the sound like tinkling glass. "Darling, my junior assistants make more than your entire annual revenue." I thought about the meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, where Victoria would learn that her entire division now reported to me. About the renovation plans for their flagship property that currently sat in my private office, waiting for my approval. "Speaking of the hotel group," James cut in, clearly eager to change the subject to something more impressive, "we're about to announce a major renovation of the Grand Meridian downtown. Very exclusive, very expensive. The kind of project that requires real business acumen, not just baking skills." I hid my smile behind my wine glass. The renovation he was so proud of wouldn't happen without my signature, though he didn't know that yet. The plans needed significant revision. Their proposed budget was bloated, their design concept derivative. I'd already drafted detailed notes for tomorrow's meeting. "Tell us about the renovation, James," my father encouraged, pointedly turning his back to me. "Some of us still understand the value of real business." As James launched into his practiced pitch about luxury suites and rooftop pools, my phone buzzed quietly. A message from my assistant. "Final acquisition papers signed. Press release scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Board meeting set for 10 a.m. I tucked my phone away, catching Victoria's disapproving glance. "Really, Sophia, it's rude to check your little bakery orders during family dinner." If she only knew I was checking on the completion of my $2.8 billion acquisition of her precious hotel group. But she would find out soon enough. We all would. The waiter appeared with the main course, and I watched my family's attention shift to their perfectly cooked steaks. None of them touched my truffles again, though I noticed James had eaten 3. Tomorrow they'd learn those truffles were made by the woman who now owned their entire company. My phone buzzed again. Another message from my assistant. Hotel manager Peters requesting urgent meeting regarding renovation budget. I smiled, remembering how Victoria had mocked my basic understanding of business. Tomorrow would certainly be interesting. The next morning I arrived at my real office, not the charming bakery storefront, but the entire top floor of the Peterson building downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a perfect view of the Grand Meridian downtown, the hotel my sister and brother-in-law had been bragging about all through dinner. Miss Parker, my assistant Michael greeted me, tablet in hand. The press release goes live in 20 minutes. The board members have all arrived and are waiting in the main conference room. Your sister just pulled into her usual parking spot at the hotel. I walked to my private bathroom to check my appearance one last time. Gone was the simple dress from last night, replaced by a meticulously tailored Armani suit. My grandmother's vintage Cartier watch, the one Victoria always assumed was a replica, gleamed on my wrist. Has anyone connected the dots yet? I asked, adjusting my blazer. No, ma'am. The acquisition was handled through 7 different shell companies. Even our lawyers are impressed with how airtight the confidentiality has been. I smiled, remembering all the family dinners where they'd lectured me about business complexity being beyond my comprehension. If they only knew how I'd structured this deal to stay under their radar for months. The renovation plans? I asked, walking to my desk. Here, Michael handed me a thick folder. The ones Mr. Harrison presented at dinner last night are just as wasteful as you suspected. Their projected costs are inflated by at least 30%. I opened my laptop to check the morning's financial news. Grand Meridian's stock had ticked up slightly, the market blissfully unaware of the bombshell about to drop. It's time, Michael announced at exactly 9 a.m. I watched as the press release hit the major financial news outlets. SP Hospitality Group acquires Grand Meridian Hotels in $2.8 billion deal. Within seconds, my phone started buzzing with notifications. Through my window, I could see increased activity at the hotel entrance. Victoria's distinctive Mercedes was still parked in her spot. She probably hadn't seen the news yet, too busy preparing for her morning meetings. Miss Parker, Michael interrupted my thoughts. Hotel manager Peters is here for the renovation meeting. Should I send him in? Yes, but first. I pulled up the security feeds from the hotel's executive floor on my computer. Victoria had just stepped into her office, her assistant running after her with what I assumed was the breaking news. I watched as my sister's perfectly composed face transformed into shock. She grabbed her phone, probably calling James or our father. The look of dawning horror as she read the full press release was particularly satisfying. Send Mr. Peters in, I said, closing the security feed. The hotel manager entered, clutching his portfolio nervously. He'd never met the mysterious owner of SP Hospitality Group, and his eyes widened slightly as he recognized me. Miss Parker, you're... He stammered. Yes, Mr. Peters. I'm the owner of SP Hospitality Group, and as of this morning, Grand Meridian Hotels. Please have a seat. We need to discuss these renovation plans. My phone buzzed again. Victoria's name flashed on the screen. I declined the call. These budget projections, I continued, opening the folder. They're significantly inflated. And the design concept lacks originality. I've made some adjustments. Mr. Peters looked increasingly uncomfortable as I detailed the issues with the plans his VP of Operations, my dear sister, had approved. But Mrs. Harrison, your sister. She insisted these were the final plans, he managed. My sister no longer has final approval on any projects, I said calmly. In fact, she'll be learning that in about. I checked my watch, 30 minutes at the board meeting. Another call from Victoria. Then one from James. Then my father. Miss Parker, Michael's voice came through the intercom. Your family is trying to reach you. And your sister has just entered the building lobby. Security wants to know if they should let her up. I thought about all the times Victoria had made me wait in lobbies while she took important meetings. About how she'd laughed when I couldn't get reservations at exclusive restaurants she frequented. Restaurants I now owned. Let her wait, I replied. Mr. Peters and I aren't quite finished with our meeting. The hotel manager shifted nervously in his seat as I methodically went through every flaw in their renovation proposal. By the time we finished, Victoria had been cooling her heels in the lobby for 20 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Peters. Please have a revised proposal on my desk by Friday. And do let my sister know I'll see her at the board meeting. After he left, I stood by the window watching the morning sun glint off the Grand Meridian's windows. My phone had dozens of missed calls and messages now. The financial news was buzzing with speculation about the mysterious owner of SP Hospitality Group finally revealing their identity. It's time for the board meeting, Michael announced. Your sister is still in the lobby. Have security escort her to the conference room, I said, gathering my files. I believe it's time for a proper family reunion. The walk to the conference room felt like a culmination of years of patience and planning. Every dismissive comment, every condescending smile, every family dinner spent at the far end of the table, it had all led to this moment. I paused outside the double doors, hearing the murmur of voices inside. Victoria's distinctive tone carried through, demanding answers from anyone who would listen. "Ready?" Michael asked quietly. I touched my grandmother's watch for luck. She'd been the only one who believed in me, who understood why I started with a small bakery instead of taking the corporate path my family demanded. "The sweetest revenge," she used to say, "is the one they never see coming until it's too late to do anything about it." I straightened my shoulders and nodded to Michael. The doors opened and I stepped into the next chapter of the Parker family story, one where the little sister who just baked cupcakes was about to become everyone's boss. The conference room fell silent as I walked in. 20 board members sat around the massive mahogany table, with Victoria standing at the far end, her perfect composure finally cracking. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the scene like a theater spotlight. "Sophia." Victoria's voice cracked. "What are you doing here? This is a private board meeting for Grand Meridian's new ownership." "I know," I replied calmly, taking my seat at the head of the table. "That's exactly why I'm here." The doors opened again as James burst in, his Italian suit wrinkled from rushing over. Behind him, I could see my father's distinctive silver hair as he tried to push past security. "Let them in," I instructed. "They should hear this too." "What is this?" James demanded, his face flushed. "Some kind of joke? You can't be." "SP Hospitality Group?" I finished for him, opening my laptop. "The mysterious company that just acquired Grand Meridian Hotels for $2.8 billion? Actually, I am." Victoria collapsed into the nearest chair, her designer dress crumpling. "That's impossible. You run a bakery. A tiny, insignificant bakery." "Sweet Harbor Bakery," I corrected her, "is just one of my businesses. A successful one, by the way, with contracts to supply pastries to every five-star hotel in the city, except Grand Meridian, which always found our prices too expensive for their budget." My father stepped forward, his authoritative presence somewhat diminished by the confusion in his eyes. "You expect us to believe you built a multi-billion-dollar company in secret? While playing baker?" I gestured to Michael, who began distributing folders to everyone in the room. "These documents detail SP Hospitality Group's complete portfolio. 15 luxury hotels, 37 restaurants, and a real estate division that owns some of the most valuable properties in 3 states. Including," I added, looking directly at James, "the building that houses your favorite members-only club, the one that rejected my membership application last year because I wasn't successful enough." The board members were flipping through the folders, murmuring among themselves as they realized the extent of my empire. Victoria was frantically scanning the documents, her hands shaking. But the renovation plans," she stammered. "The downtown property are being completely revised," I cut in. "Your budget was inflated, your design concept unoriginal, and your timeline unrealistic. Mr. Peters already has my notes." James found his voice again. "You can't just come in here and..." "Actually, I can. As majority owner of Grand Meridian Hotels, I can do exactly that. Which brings me to the next order of business." I nodded to Michael, who distributed another set of documents. "A complete reorganization of the executive team. Victoria, your position as VP of Operations is being eliminated. We're streamlining the management structure." "You're firing me?" Victoria's voice rose to a pitch I hadn't heard since we were children. "Your own sister." "Not firing," I corrected her. "Offering you a different position. Assistant Manager of Guest Services. I believe you'll find it enlightening to work directly with our customers for a change." The room erupted in chaos. Victoria was crying, James was threatening legal action, and my father was demanding to speak to his lawyers. Through it all, I remained seated, calm and collected, watching years of superiority crumble around them. "One more thing," I said, my voice cutting through the noise. "About those truffles from last night's dinner. The ones you called little treats. They're part of our new signature chocolate line, Launching in all SP hospitality properties next month. James, you seem to enjoy them, you 8-3. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. The display showed my mother's name, probably just hearing the news. I declined it and stood up. The board will reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m. to discuss the transition in detail. Victoria, you can clear out your office by end of day. Security will assist you. As I turned to leave, my father's voice stopped me. Why? He asked, sounding older than I'd ever heard him. Why all this deception? We're family. I looked at him, remembering all the Sunday dinners where he'd ignored me, all the family events where I was seated far from the successful members of the family. Because you taught me well, Dad. You always said business success was about seeing opportunities others miss. You just missed the biggest opportunity of all, believing in your younger daughter. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of changes. Grand Meridian's stock soared under the new ownership. Victoria, after initially threatening to quit, surprisingly embraced her new role, though it probably helped that her salary was still generous. James found himself working for one of my other hotels, learning the business from the ground up. My parents tried different approaches to reconcile, first anger, then guilt, finally settling into a kind of stunned acceptance that their baker daughter was now one of the most powerful people in the hospitality industry. Sweet Harbor Bakery? I kept it open, still spending a few hours there each week personally making truffles. It remained my sanctuary, a reminder of where I started and why I worked so hard to succeed. 1 month after the acquisition, I received an invitation to the next family dinner. The location? The Grand Meridian's prestigious rooftop restaurant. My restaurant. The note in Victoria's handwriting said, "Head table this time, sis. You've earned it." I sent back a simple reply, "I'll bring dessert." After all, success is sweetest when served with a side of perfectly made truffles and a generous helping of humble pie. Standing in my office that evening, looking out over the city I'd quietly conquered, I touched my grandmother's watch and smiled. The sweetest revenge isn't just success, she used to say. It's success they can't dismiss, deny, or diminish. And as I watched the sun set behind the Grand Meridian's gleaming towers, I knew she was right. Sometimes the best response to being underestimated isn't to argue or fight. It's to quietly build something so magnificent they can't help but see your true worth. Even if it takes serving them a few truffles along the way.